All right, DJ.
You know what's not getting old, DJ? The Seahawks inability to stop the run. It's not getting old.
It's actually getting really old. Watching them not stop the run.
29th in rushing offense, 29th in rushing defense. Fix it, DJ. What is going on?
Well, we can go to the defense first. It's chunks, man. It is big chunks. 7 explosive runs. That's a problem. Look, there's blood on a lot of people's hands when you watch the tape. That wasn't Julian Love's best game, with some missed tackles coming down inside there. Mm-hmm. There's not – we always talk about, like, things being connected. I think we do that offensively, more like, hey, the run game, the linemen got to be connected, the running backs, the receivers have to be connected to the line. Like, all these things have to be connected. It's the same with run defense. I mean, when you're slanting one way – and you don't have a linebacker that's scraping, and then you're just left with these huge voids. And that's where you see some of these runs come from. Ernest Jones out there, I don't know what the deal is with his arm. I don't know what that injury is. He's got that huge brace on his arm, but he couldn't really punch off blocks. He got completely flat-backed on one of them. I think it was Deion Dawkins who pulled up in there and got him. But
that's the one where his helmet was rolling like the headless horseman, like Ichabod Crane into the end zone on that play. Yeah, Crane. Sorry, Ichabod Crane.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think that's you had Witherspoon miss a tackle on one on a long one. So there was not just one guilty party, but I would say more than anything else, just. They're not super connected right now between their front and their linebackers.
So maybe this is a dumb question, but I wrote about it last night, salsports.com, so I'll ask you. I mean, when McDonald came from Baltimore, he didn't bring anybody with him. He didn't bring any defensive coaches with him, or certainly not any near the top of the food chain. And he didn't bring any players with him who had specific familiarity with him and his system. At the time, we were like, hey, this is great, right? Not playing the old boys club thing. He's bringing in people that he thinks are great teachers. And I'm not sure I haven't changed my mind on that. I think all those things are true. But would it have been helpful to have brought in a few people that maybe either could help coach it or help do it on the field in order to make sure that they were all kind of working on the same page?
Yeah, I think there's something to that. Just some familiarity of having been in the defense, and maybe having just, in an ideal world, you have one of those guys in every room, in every position group. It doesn't have to be a starter, it doesn't have to be a stud, but just somebody who can be a kind of a sounding board and help kind of relay the message. I definitely think there's something to that. I also think, let's have some patience and let's let them go through a draft cycle, another draft cycle, bring in more guys and kind of get the right fits for how they want to play. I don't think that just magically happens there. But I do think there's merit to bringing guys that have familiarity with you, even if it's just terminology, just from that standpoint, having that down pat.
Looking at this copycat, nature of this defense, right? You talked to us about that early in the year of how many different programs now in the NFL have taken pieces of this Baltimore defense, and McDonald's running it. You're seeing it every weekend in L.A. I'm kind of curious. We're going to do some compare and contrast between those Chargers and Harbaugh 8 weeks in and where their culture is, and the Seahawks naturally with the first-time head coach where he is. But from a defensive standpoint, right, same system, are they doing the simulated pressures? Are they exotic? Are they getting to a lot of creative stuff? Because right now, and McDonald told us on Monday, we're just not getting to the depth of the playbook because we're not doing the fundamental things even well. Have they been able to progress in that nature down in L.A. with the Chargers?
Yeah, they have. I mean, it's maybe a little less than I thought in terms of all the exotics and all the sim pressures, but they've stopped the run really well down here. And, I mean, they've got the number one scoring defense in the NFL. They haven't played great quarterbacks. That's another thing that emboldens you a little bit to be a little bit more aggressive on those down and distances. So they're putting themselves in opportunities to make those calls, and they're not really facing the quarterbacks that could hurt you with those calls.
So how are they stopping the run? Number one scoring defense.
Put forward is a big part of it.
Don't even say that. I'm going to spit that name out my mouth.
That can't be right.
Get your name out my mouth.
He's played his butt off. He has played his
Daniel
butt
Jeremiah,
off
don't
down
you ever say something like that on these airwaves. You text me ahead of time before you're going to say something like that. Puna Ford is the difference in the run stopping for the Chargers.
He's played great. And Salk's favorite play-by-play guy said this last week during the game Poona Ford's going to get Pro Bowl votes. That was from Matt Money Smith with the way Poona Ford has played this year.
What are we
He's
doing?
been good. He's got knockback. Tier Tart, who not many people know who he is, has played really well. Tito Abonia, it's like a no-name front, but they've stopped the run and they've got knockback, and then you've got physical linebackers behind them. So they haven't had it. I want to see. When you see teams that can really work the tight end and get him involved, like Arizona had some success with McBride. But the Chargers defense, from a linebacker standpoint, Denzel Perriman, he's one of the best run-stopping linebackers in the NFL. They're built to stop the run.
All right, so before we get to the other side of the ball and figure out why the Seahawks can't run the ball either, last week when you were with us, I think you very presciently said that the Seahawks might need to do something at linebacker, that they, maybe that would be a place where they could make some changes. And later in the day, they did. They traded for Ernest Jones.
1 hour later.
Did you know that, by the way? Did you have a sense that was coming? Impressive. All the more impressive.
No.
Who is Ernest Jones?
I did not know that Poona Ford was not popular in Seattle, and I did not know that.
No,
He is.
he's a great guy. He's a 5'11" fire hydrant with long arms, big hands. He's a Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year.
It's sad to see him be the difference in stopping the run somewhere else when he used to be, here being just okay. I think that's all. Yeah. Who's Ernest Jones? Why did they go out and trade for Ernest Jones, and what can we expect?
Yeah, I was just kind of surprised with his career path, because I liked him a lot coming out, and then he played well with the Rams, and then they decided they didn't want to pay him, so they trade him to the Titans, and here he is getting traded again. So to be on his third team at this point in his career, I did not anticipate that happening. But he is someone who has range, who, when fully healthy, can actually get off blocks and be physical as well. So he's a talented player. He played some on the line in college as well as off the ball, so he's got some versatility that way. When I watched this tape this week, I don't know if I don't know the extent of the injury he's dealing with, but he wasn't quite as physical, just being able to take on blocks and get off blocks, as I remember. And it's going to take a minute for him to just get comfortable in the new surroundings. But he can run. He is instinctive. He's a good player.
Yeah, 15 tackles, right? Sometimes tackles like passing yards or kickoff return yards, not always the greatest to have in volume, but he did have a bunch of that. Okay, let's flip sides. Okay, let's put on this Seahawks run game. And I'm not even going to preface it with anything. What did your eyes see with the tape?
Usually one guy kind of costing them. It wasn't, they're getting, all of them are getting blown back off the ball, with all this penetration. It's, miscommunication where you've got a puller, and he's not trusting when you've got a crack. He's not trusting that the receiver is going to get the crack, and so you end up 2-on-1, and then you end up with an unblocked defender, where if you just trust it, you end up with Kenneth Walker out the left side, and it could be an explosive play. There's not a ton of trust going on right there, and that showed up a bunch. The other thing is Kenneth missed a couple of them vision wise. He did not hit it. I didn't think he was quite as decisive. There's one where he presses the hole, comes to a complete stop, tries to kind of belly back, and that ends up being a negative play. But it wasn't. When I watched it, I thought, okay, man, they must, are they getting just blown back? Are they getting beat across the board? That really wasn't the case. Tomlinson was one on kind of the assignment stuff that there's just not a lot of trust there.
I hit in Blue 88 last hour, DJ. I just didn't see much movement. You got a double team with Christian Haynes and Gerald. And as I say that, I'm like, well, why do you think they're two rookies, 3rd and 6th round pick? But I see a double team and I don't see any movement. I just see we're just standing here. And no, your job at 600 and something pounds is to move that 300 pounder into the second level that they, being Buffalo, were doing to you. And I just don't see much. And I think that's what Ken's not seeing, is just much movement at the point of attack.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. I mean there's 3 levels to it, right? Ideally, you want to be knocking people off the ball, and off the line of scrimmage. An acceptable thing is to just stay attached, and what you can't have is getting blown back, or giving up run throughs. Now, if you want to look at the glass half full, I didn't see a lot of that.
Correct.
But it is more of a stalemate run game right now than it is, creating a lot of movement. And the other thing is they're not great out in space either. And that shows up in the screen game. Bradford had an opportunity out there. They couldn't pick anybody up off in space. So they're searching a little bit for their identity. But I honestly, it's not a football-y term, but I really think that trust is a huge It's a huge deal, man. Like if you're not trusting that unblocked defender who's supposed to be accounted for by somebody else is going to get picked up, that's a problem, and you end up with a lot of 2-on-1s and a lot of guys unblocked.
Is that trust? Could it appear? I mean, like, is it lost or is it just not there yet? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think playing with each other longer helps with some of that, but I think that's kind of more of a personality thing that gets kind of just slammed into the team of like, hey, this is how you've got to do your job. It's the old cliche, do your job, let the other guy take care of his job, but you can't try and do everybody's job or nothing gets done. That can be kind of drilled into people, and I'm sure that's something they're having conversations about and talking about this week.
Which is closer to being which could be fixed quicker, the rush defense or the running offense?
I think they have the guys to fix the defense. I still think there's talent upgrades that need to take place along the offensive line. I think defensively they have some really good pieces there. They've got to get connected with the linebackers and the safeties coming down and helping out and being where they need to be and filling spots. I feel better about the talent level of the defense to fix that.
Hey, when you talk about trust, how much trust would you have in your quarterback if he tapped out of a game because he was tired?
Yeah, I've never seen it before. I said it right afterwards that you can't do that. And I literally gave Bucky on our podcast a multiple choice test, which was, okay, if you're a quarterback in the NFL, say you just have that crazy play and you literally can't catch your breath. I said, these are some of your options here. Number one, you, as the play call comes in, you put your hands over your head and you just shake your head like you didn't get the call. You bang a timeout.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to catch my breath. Number two, you fake a cramp. I fall on the ground. I grab my leg and let the trainer come out there and I just, hey, take your time. Just take your time. And that's number two.
Okay.
Number three, I'm just going to change whatever the play is and I'm calling a run play. And I'm going to say, look, I was gassed. I just need to run the ball. And I could keep going on and on and on and on before I would get to the option of tapping my head. Like, you can't do that. You just can't. You just can't do that. So, I mean, there was an infinite number of other ways you could have got the same thing accomplished, which was buying a little time for you to catch your breath.
Is Richardson salvageable?
It's so early, He's not super accurate, and that's always
44%.
That's always a concern of how much. I think you get a little bit better there. I don't know how much better you can get there. He just doesn't possess a lot of touch, and then he hasn't proven that he can stay healthy playing, an ultra aggressive running brand of football. So. Yeah, I mean, I would put it in the very concerned category. I'm not gonna issue the final verdict right now, but it's gonna be a long process.
Okay, one thing, Salk, we haven't talked about 3 days, by the way. And this hasn't even come up with all the other storylines of the Seahawks game and everything else. And you mentioned Anthony Richardson tapping out. How many times do you see a quarterback throw a football at their opponent and get an unsportsmanlike penalty?
Ooh, I've missed this, by the way. What was this?
Which NFL quarterback lost his cool and threw a football at a defender on the other team's sidelines on Sunday afternoon? Yeah, that'd be Geno Smith. Yeah, that was.
Oh, what Geno? Did he really?
Yeah, that was Geno. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah,
that didn't show up on the tape.
Throw is a generous term. I mean, he tossed. He didn't whip it at him or anything.
No, he didn't whip it at him, but you can't throw a ball.
Right, you can't.
He totally pouted. He lost his cool, composure. He also ran to the bench after a screen got tipped and twice an interception and ran over there, and the cameras catch him over there kind of pouting on the bench. And that's the part of it, man. I am the biggest fan and proponent of Geno the thrower. And we've talked about his anticipation and his accuracy. And Daniel, in 3 years, I think I've seen 2 wobbly passes. I mean, the dude can spin a football, but that personality, that elevating everybody around you, that calm in the chaos, is that still a work in progress for Geno?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see that play, but it's not a great sign, and you don't want to be thought of as someone who's a pouter. That's definitely not a word you want used when things are not going well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to defend him from that standpoint, Brock. I'm just saying when you go through and you watch, you're inside the 5, the ball snapped 50 feet over your head.
Yep.
You're at 4th and goal, and you trip getting away from the center. Like,
Yep.
if there was a game that featured a lot of frustration, you mentioned the screen that gets tipped and picked. Like,
Yep.
I get being frustrated.
Were you a pouter?
By the way, have you ever thrown a ball? I've thrown a ball. I thrown a ball at a teammate in practice. Have you ever done that?
No, I'd never do something like that.
Brock ripped the fingers off a teammate in practice.
No, I threw a ball a little hard at Derek Mays, and it kind of ripped the top of his finger off. Don't worry about that. DJ, were you a powder?
I did not have that problem.
I am a little worried about it for Derek Mays, mostly.
We had a kid. We were doing like a Thursday, like kind of like a perfect practice thing. This is in high school. This isn't even college. This is in high school. It's like and so you got the scout team out there, and we're throwing like it was like a tunnel screen. So you're going through your script for like the opening part of the game, and we're not obviously we're not even in we're in t-shirts, and this defensive end, this like freshman defensive end, jumps up and bats the ball down, and I'm like, hey, what are we doing? Stop. So then we run like the 3rd or 4th play in the sequence, and it's like a curl or something, and so and there's no rush lane, so you're not going to have any way to throw the ball because everybody just kind of stands at the line of scrimmage. He jumped up and batted it again, and the coach is getting pissed at me.
Right.
So he batted the ball, and I caught it, and then I chucked it. I did not feel good about it. I felt bad about it immediately, and I was. I
think you're in the right. I'm with you. I got your back.
I'm like, we got enough Thursday All-Americans out here. I don't even know what that meant at that point in time when I was in high school, but I had heard the phrase once, so I used it.
Hey, I got a couple of quick around the NFL questions for you. How does the Aaron Rodgers story end?
I would say it's not going to end well there this year. I think that they kind of slip. They'll win some games. They'll be under 500, and that'll probably be it for his NFL career. He'll retire, and his most kind of enigmatic kind of, I would say, subjects of criticism from the media, and rightfully so. He will then go turn around and join one of those outlets that's been ripping him profusely.
How long does this Russ story last? Because it's kind of fun.
Oh, I think it works. You know, I think he can ride this thing out through this year, next year. I'll give that. I think that's a 2-year. I think that series has a 2-year run. Is my prediction.
They're using him the right way. I mean, like they're not letting him throw it all over the building and throw it 40 times a game. They're letting him manage the game, throw it deep a few times, and make a few plays. And when you let Russ do that, he's pretty darn good.
Like the Chargers do with Puna. Man, very similar.
There you go. Man, imagine where you guys would be. When I was watching that game, I talked about it on Monday with Bucky. I said I saw every version of Russ in that game when I watched the tape. I saw young Seattle Russ, which was deep play action, which was moving the pocket, taking deep shots down the field, and then if it wasn't a deep shot, he's on the perimeter. Very, very easy throws, scripted throws. I saw the shotgun era Russ where they were, wanted to throw it all over the place, and I saw some of the good stuff there, the middle part of his career. And then there was a couple, pure drop back worm burners like that represented maybe the Denver Broncos era of his career. So I saw all 3 iterations of Russ in that game.
All right. Well, Scout Team Hero. So super mad at you. We're getting texts from a lot of Scout Team heroes who are mad about you.
That's one thing I never did, DJ. I had a lot of faults, but those guys.
Yeah, you know
on the
why?
Other side,
because you're freaking 6'5" and you're throwing over that kid. I'm not. Okay?
How tall are you?
So, I'm 6'01". 6'011". I'm
6011. Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're
official.
5'11".
I walked around my whole life thinking I was 6'2". My first year in scouting at training camp, they were teaching us how to do heights and weights, and they put me up there, and they're like 6'011". I'm like, what? I'm 6'2". Like, no, you're not. You're 6'1".
Sorry, bro. All right, DJ. Well, we appreciate it. You're 6'2" in our hearts. How about that? Thank you for your weekly half hour, and I would say go Dodgers, but I know you don't want to hear it. But go Dodgers tonight.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh man,
Go
it's just
Dodgers.
terrible.
Don't let the Yankees back into this.
Next year's our year.